While the 2023 rule changes may seem relatively small following last year's major rewrite, there are still significant technical and sporting changes for this season. Let's take a look at what we believe will be the most significant changes and how they will affect the teams, drivers, and most importantly, the racing. Sprints. Since the introduction of the drag reduction system at the start of the 2011 season, drivers have only been permitted to use it from the beginning of the second lap, following a start or safety car restart. It was feared that allowing it to be used immediately after the lights went out would cause chaos and potential accidents because the field is so densely packed. However, with drivers easily breaking out of the 1-second DRS zone over 2 laps, F1 wants to see if the spectacle can be improved by allowing it 1 lap earlier than it is now. During a meeting of the F1 Commission in Abu Dhabi, it was agreed that experiments would take place for this season's sprint races. For the 6 Saturday sprints in 2023, the activation of DRS after the start or a safety car restart will now begin following 1 lap of action rather than 2. All other aspects of the DRS rules will remain unchanged, including the 1-second detection limit. If the experiments prove successful in improving the show without causing any problems, the plan is to fully implement it in F1 starting in 2024. F1 has long hoped that it would be able to do away with DRS, but it looks like the management still believes that the device is necessary to keep the races exciting. It has also been agreed that for sprint races, a new structure will be implemented to deal with paying for accident damage sustained by teams. Instead of claiming back for repairs, teams will now be allowed a set amount per event. This means that instead of the current $150,000 limit, teams will receive a $300,000 allowance for each sprint. All other compensation provisions for minor and material damage will subsequently be removed from the regulations. The F1 Commission is also considering changes to the current Parc Fermé rules for sprint weekends in order to simplify things, as setups are currently fixed from Friday's qualifying session. Restructuring. The FIA has pledged increased investment and resources to Formula One regulation and has restructured its F1 operations for the 2023 season. Formula One governing body says the significant changes are the result of a review of internal procedures initiated by President Mohammed bin Sulayem, and that the reorganization has already been completed following a transition period. Former FIA Technical Director Nicolas Tombazis has been promoted to single-seater director, putting him at the apex of this new structure. There will be 4 key roles reporting to Tombazis, who believes the changes will propel the FIA forward. Tim Goss, the ex-McLaren Technical Director who joined the FIA in 2021 and worked as Tombazis' deputy, has taken over as FIA Technical Director. François Sicard, the former sporting director, has been promoted to the newly created position of Strategy and Operations Director. According to the FIA, this puts him in charge of long-term strategic planning, as well as key trackside activities and logistics. Sicard joined the FIA last year after overseeing the successful Dams Racing organization. Longtime F1 executive Steve Nielsen takes over as sporting director, with responsibility for the ongoing development of race control and the remote operations center, as well as future updates to the sporting regulations. Federico Lodi, who has led the FIA's financial regulations team since its inception in advance of the budget cap in 2021, will be the other major role in the structure. Ben Sulayem says these changes have taken a lot of time and effort, and he hopes that they will have the desired effect of making the FIA more robust after a turbulent start to his presidency. He took over an embattled governing body that had clearly struggled to find replacements capable of handling the many responsibilities held by the late popular Charlie Whiting until his death on the eve of the 2019 season. In 2022, there were signs of progress within the FIA, but there were also clear problem areas, such as the rotating race director setup, which was abandoned shortly before the season's end. Nielsen is an important recruit for the FIA in this restructuring due to his experience and standing in the championship. It is understood he was effectively offered to the FIA to improve its on-site team at Grand Prix, as indicated by F1 CEO Stefano Domenicali, greeting the announcement with his full support and stating it will, quote, assist the FIA in its ongoing efforts to improve their operations during race weekends. Technical changes. For all you engineering nerds out there are also a slew of technical changes coming in. The ground effect floor specification for 2023 will be raised by 15 mm to reduce the number of teams running their cars as low as possible and risking safety concerns caused by vertical oscillations. This was initially proposed as a 25 mm rise, but team pushback has reduced the overall change in floor edge height. This includes more stringent flex tests to ensure that teams are not using floor elasticity to run the edges closer to the ground, as well as raising the diffuser throat height to reduce air sensitivity under the car. Following Zhou Guanyu's crash at the British Grand Prix in 2022, the roll hoop regulations were also revised to improve strength and reduce the possibility of the roll hoop digging into the ground. To counteract this possibility, the top of the roll hoop must be rounded, and homologation tests will be modified to include a minimum loading point as well as a horizontal test to ensure the roll hoop does not rip away. Each car will also have larger mirrors to improve rear visibility, which some teams have already tested in practice sessions. The FIA has also introduced a sliding scale pertaining to the wind tunnel and computational fluid dynamics, or CFD, testing time that cuts the amount of testing allowed depending on a team's championship placing in 2021. The base figures allow a team to spend 320 wind tunnel runs, 80 hours of wind-on time, and a total of 400 hours in the wind tunnel during one aerodynamic testing period, of which there are 6 in a season. Now, percentage values will be applied based on where each team finishes. Finishing first in the constructors' standings results in a 70% multiplier, which means a team's time in the wind tunnel is reduced, while finishing 10th results in a 115% multiplier, which means they have more time available. CFD terms operate on the same principles. Penalties. The FIA is considering implementing a new penalty system for power unit component allocation violations to replace the current grid penalty system. The current penalty system used to punish a driver for using too many power unit components in a season has long been a source of contention amongst fans. Currently, in a pursuit to cut costs, teams are given a set allocation of power unit components that can be used throughout the season, and drivers are penalized for using more than their allotted number of components. However, if a team anticipates that they will exceed the component limits, they will often take tactical penalties at circuits more suited to overtaking, such as Spa-Francorchamps or Monza, to allow for an easier recovery from a lower grid position. And with several drivers taking tactical penalties in some Grands Prix, starting grids in F1 have sometimes looked completely different from qualifying results, which is often problematic for casual fans. In 2022, only the Aston Martin drivers, both Williams drivers, and McLaren's Daniel Ricciardo received no penalties for breaking the allocation rules. Due to the unpopularity of the current power unit penalty system, as well as the risk of unnecessarily increasing costs, the F1 Commission decided in mid-November to conduct an investigation into a new system. According to sources within the F1 Commission, various types of penalties and other measures were discussed during the meetings and may be implemented in the future. The following proposals were discussed and will be reviewed at the next meeting of the F1 Commission. 1. For the first power unit element changed in an event, replace grid position penalties with an in-race penalty. This penalty would be served at the first pit stop, with the possibility of additional restrictions. For example, a penalty must be served before a certain number of laps. 2. Consider a deterrent for power unit element changes in the same event to avoid strategic changes. 3. Any power unit element that is replaced is removed from the pool of available power units. 4. A special provision would be made to replace power unit elements damaged in an accident. 5. Because the changes in power unit elements will be more severe, it is suggested that the annual limit of power unit elements be increased by 1. Teams, for example, will be able to use 4 internal combustion engines instead of 3. Before any further decisions are made, the sporting and power unit advisory committees, as well as the strategists of the various teams, will review the proposals. Tyre Blankets. Following trials of their 2023 tyres during practice for the United States and Mexican Grand Prix, drivers voiced their concerns about Pirelli's plan to reduce tyre temperatures for 2023 and to ban tyre blankets altogether for 2024. The gradual phase-out of tyre blankets was to continue in 2023 as part of F1 and Pirelli's goal to reduce costs and energy consumption. But following the complaints, Pirelli has announced that they will delay their plans. The step for 2023 should have been to reduce tyre blanket temperatures from 70 degrees Celsius to 50 degrees. Pirelli's motorsport director, Mario Isola, confirmed to the media that the drivers had expressed concerns about the lower temperatures. "We tested the prototypes in Austin with the blankets at 50 degrees, confirmed Isola. The main complaints from drivers were about the warm-up phase. The change was something they felt was quite a lot, and they struggled with the first lap or couple of laps with a much lower grip compared to the tyres at 70 degrees. Some of them are still asking for blankets to be back to 100 degrees, as it was in the past, so they are very linked to the past." F1 tyres are currently heated to 70 degrees for 3 hours before use, and Pirelli is looking to phase this process out in order to reduce energy consumption as part of their sustainability goals. Following tests, Pirelli confirmed that their goals of reducing energy consumption in 2023 could be met by reducing tyre heating time rather than lowering temperatures. Isola confirmed that F1 tyres will remain heated to 70 degrees, but with a shorter heat cycle time of 2 hours rather than 3. So, what do you think about all these rule changes? What impact will they have on the 2023 season? Who do you think benefits the most from these changes? Please let us know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking it and subscribing. Be sure to click the bell icon to be notified of future uploads. Thanks for watching.